Hello. In this video, we are going to talk about labels in communications mining. In the previous video, we had an overview about communications mining. We went through the different screens that's available in comms mining. And now it's time to learn these different things that we need when it comes to the model training in communications mining. When we are training a model in communications mining, we will be working with several things. So basically, there are four things that we need to know. One is verbatims, second, labels, third, entities, fourth, metadata. So these are main things that we need to know when we are doing this training in communications mining. Let's start with verbatims. What is a verbatim? Verbatim is actually referring to an individual communication. In our case, it could be an individual email. So every email can be considered as a verbatim. In a verbatim, what are the things that we look at when we analyze communication information? First of all, we need to identify the intent behind that communication, what we are trying to tell in summary. Second, we need to identify the key information in the email. The third one is the metadata. So basically, who sent the email to whom and the time and so on. So these things are referred by these keywords. So verbatim is an email. What is the purpose behind that communication is actually captured by labels. So in this video, we are going to talk about labels mostly, and the information that you need to capture. So one, you have an email, then you identify the purpose behind that communication. Then you need to identify the key information from your email, and that goes to entities. So when it comes to label, it's more of a, let's think of it as a different way of classifying your email. In document understanding, we have different classification methods. What we do there, when we get a document, we see where this document belongs to, or in other words, what kind of a document that is. In document understanding, we also create a taxonomy in the taxonomy manager. If you remember, in that taxonomy manager, we create groups, we create categories, then we create different document types. Why I tell this here in communications mining is we follow a similar concept here. In communications mining, you also need to identify this category where this email belongs to. How you do that is slightly similar in comms mining because the purpose of communication mining is different compared to document understanding, but what's done through labeling is that identifying the whole intent behind this communication. So basically, to do that, we create that label structure in a hierarchical way. I'll show you how it is done, but generally a label will have it will be in a hierarchical structure, and for a specific email you can have multiple labels associated with it. If you see the example here, change of address, that is a summary of that communication. So basically you have an email and you are basically requesting to change your address. The purpose behind this is Just by looking at the label, we should be able to figure out what the purpose of this communication. In a way, this also relates to what you want to achieve in your analysis or in your communications mining project. We'll get to those points in a short while, but basically this labeling aligns with the analysis you want to perform and the automation initiatives that you want to introduce. So that's generally a label. I'll show you one more example. In this screen, this is an example that I showed in my previous video. So these different sections here are different emails. So if you look at these things in blue color, these represent the labels. So in an email, you can have multiple labels. And just by looking at it, we can see that it's about a renewal and they're requesting for a renewal. So this is one example. And down below is a renewal extension. So there can be more than one label associated with this because let's take another example. You have application. Let's say it's a SAP application, and for some reason you're not able to log in, and you're sending an email to your support team saying, I have this login created for SAP, but I'm not able to log in. And it's already, let's say it's the desktop version of SAP, and you already have it installed. So when that email comes in, if you want to analyze all these different scenarios about that gets communicated through your communication platform, you will be capturing that information. So it's a application specific issue. So you have application which is sub, and then you have an issue like you're not able to log in. So those are the kind of information you capture in your labels. When you're creating your label hierarchy, you need to look at these things, how you want to create and what are the information you need to capture and all that, which actually comes in as a part of taxonomy. So we'll get to the taxonomy, but this is where the labels get created. So generally, this hierarchical structure is referred as labels. Um, and it's basically to provide a structure to your unstructured communication. And as I showed you earlier, all these blue color things will refer to the labels, just like what you have over here. That being said, now we have a high level idea about what these labels are and what's the purpose behind it. Now let's see how these labels are actually created. When it comes to label creation, that introduces us to another term called taxonomy. And now think about what I explained earlier about the taxonomy we do in document understanding. It's a kind of a similar thing we define here. So in DU, we do the grouping, category, and the document. Here, it's slightly different because we follow a different purpose here, but this is also called the taxonomy design. And it's actually, when it comes to this model training, this is actually a phase in your whole training process where you start defining your taxonomy. Basically, the taxonomy is a collection of labels that you are going to apply for all your emails in your dataset. And as I mentioned before, these labels can be applied to multiple emails And in an email, you can have multiple labels. How do you define your taxonomy? This is based on certain factors. So generally, um, we look at two things. We use communications mining for analytics and automation, as I mentioned in my previous video. If you are going to use it for analytics, that means you are going to analyze your communication data and try to find the different scenarios and identify areas of improvement. For a scenario like that, you need to understand all the possible variations or all the possible scenarios that happen or that occur in your communications. In such a scenario, we need to have much more detailed taxonomy design to capture all of those variations. So typically, in an analytics scenario, you will have about a lot of labels, around 50 or 150 as it's described here. And there can be a lot of child labels as well in this hierarchy, because this hierarchy will look similar to this. See this image. Under facilities, you have air conditioning, you have a lot of other stuff, and you can even have another layer here. So the recommendation is you can go up to 3 levels. It's more like a tree structure. If you're focusing on automation to basically identify different automation opportunities, then you don't need to go into that level of detail. In such a scenario, you can identify what are the things that you need to look into depending on your use case, depending on your company objectives. You can think of areas that you need to look into and design your taxonomy based on that. And in such a case, you will have a less number of labels to deal with. Yeah, so this section over here is just talking about the same thing that I just mentioned. Basically, identify your objective and try to convert that into the taxonomy. Then comes this section. What kind of labels can we include in a taxonomy? By default, these are some of the things that we may generally use. We may use all of these things or we may use some of these things depending on your use case again. But in high level, these are the things that we will focus on when we are designing our taxonomy. So it's process or request types, quality of service, root cause, and so on. Let's see what these things are in now so that we get a better idea how we design these labels. Okay, when it comes to process or request type, this could refer to different processes that you have in your organization, and we can use that information to categorize your communication data according to those processes, so we can easily find information specific to a process or a request type mainly. And this could easily refer to the different other categories that I told you about. Like for example, let's say you have a process and somebody is not happy with the service of that process. So it kind of relates to the quality of service. This could be a starting point for a lot of things. Then comes the root cause. This is all about identifying or capturing different problems and issues that people have, or even incomplete information, or different exceptions. So these are the things that you can capture under root cause and exceptions. When it comes to quality of service, so by the name of it, you can just think about those different quality levels like good quality, bad quality service, or even escalations, like sending out reminders. All of these things contribute to the quality of the service. Sentiments. If somebody is not happy, if you are providing feedback, those kind of information can be captured under sentiment related labels. So all of these things, basically you can see it all relates to what exactly you want to monitor and you want to capture in your use case. The next one is more like client experiences, how they are experiencing your services. And if you have different products that you are talking about, uh, like insurance and so on, you can also refer to those things. Or if you have any products that you offer as a part of your company offerings, you can refer to those things. And then system specific information, just like the example I told you a while ago about the sub example. And everything else that can be included there, you can put those things into uninformative, basically the non-critical stuff. So when you identify those different scenarios that you want to capture, then you can start building your taxonomy like this. This could be your coprocessors, and you can even have the different products and sub-products within that. So that way you can see the three layers that we can build. For example, if we have a product A, and let's say I'm using a sub-product of product A, and I have some issues that I have been talking to the support team, but they're not responding. Um, so in such a scenario, I can tag multiple labels to my communication. So I'm talking about product sub-product one under product A, and I'm escalating this because I'm not happy, and there are issues that I need to get resolved. So basically, we can tag multiple labels for such kind of a communication. But to capture those things, you need to organize this in such a way so that you can easily relate to those scenarios. And again, all this depends on what exactly you want to capture and analyze. So this is basically the start, and this is more like a hierarchical structure that you are building. So once we identify that structure, how can you put it into a document? So the best is use a Excel file or a CSV file and put it into a structure like this. So you can basically have two columns. One is the label name, the other one is a description, just to describe what this label is about. So basically, when you're creating the structure, you need to type it as you see over here. The first one is the root node. Then everything that falls under that, you can put everything like this, followed by, so basically, look at this example. The root is the policy, then comes the sub level, which is the amendment, and under amendment, you can have different other things. So you need to follow this structure. And under policy, if you have like something else, you can mention that here. Then all the the third level stuff can follow. So basically, this is how you define your uh, taxonomy put it into Excel file. That's the easiest way to do it. And then for everything, make sure you add a description so everybody gets the understanding that this is what this label is about. Once you have done that, you can actually upload this information to your communications mining app. Let me show you how you do that. So in your communications mining, you can go to this settings page and select label and entities over here. Under that, you will get that little screen where you can actually upload your taxonomy data. You will not be able to type everything, but you can just click on this plus sign and click on import labels, copy paste everything from your Excel or the CSV file into that grid. And it will show that information like this. And once you submit it, you can see the whole list here itself. And you can edit your descriptions if needed on this screen. That's how you import your taxonomy data to the communications mining platform so that you can use that taxonomy as labels when you're training your model. So that's the whole concept behind labels. That being said, we are reaching to the end of this video. I hope this video is helpful for you to understand about the labels and how we should prepare these labels and what's the method that we usually follow when we are designing the structure for these labels, which we call as the taxonomy. And also the last thing that I wanted to share is when these are like the few main areas that we can include for your taxonomy, but it is not limited to this. This can be your default, but you can also add more things into your design based on what you want to achieve. So those are the main things that you need to remember when we talk about labels in communications mining and also taxonomy in communications mining. That's it for this video. If you have any questions, put it in the comment section. I'll reply to you. And in the next video, we'll look at entities and see how that relates to model training. Thank you again for listening. I'll see you in another video.